everyone, welcome to Ad Victoriam. I'm Caleb, this is Zac.
Hey guys.
And we are reading, praying, journaling, and talking through the Bible to victory. I'm going to start us off today. I read the book of Galatians, tons of good stuff in there. In order to talk about, I guess, what stood out to me, I'm just going to kind of recap what Paul was saying. So basically, he went to Galatia, preached the gospel, left. Other people came, Jews, who were basically telling them, hey, we're Christians too. And in order to be a Christian, you still have to be circumcised. And then they were like, Paul's also kind of on board with this, and they're being shady about it. And so Paul's writing this letter to address that of like, hey, that's not what I said. That's never what I've said. That's never what I've believed. In fact, I've stood up to the other apostles on this very issue. And so the whole thing is about sound doctrine. Like, what do we believe? Why do we believe it? And he lays it all out throughout the entire book. And so I'm not going to go through all of that. But what stood out to me was in chapter 5, in verse 7, it says, you are running a good race. Who cut in on you to keep you from obeying the truth? That kind of persuasion does not come from the one who calls you. A little yeast works throughout the whole patch of dough. And then later in the chapter, the second to last verse, 25, it says, since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit. The first thing that stood out is obviously we've been talking a lot about this week, teaching, false teaching, yeast, seeds, all of that stuff. And we talked a lot about, I think it was Matthew 16, where Jesus is saying, like, beware the yeast of the Pharisees. Well, Paul was a Pharisee, which is super interesting. And then he uses that exact same illustration of a little yeast works its way through the dough. But what stood out to me was him using the race metaphor, that these people were running a good race towards Christ, towards the kingdom of heaven. And he says that someone cut in on you, and that they kept them from obeying the truth. And I was just thinking about that again of, I feel like this past year and a half, maybe 2 years, has really been scripture opening my eyes to the fact that there are people in the world with nefarious goals. Because early in the chapter, he says that these people came in secretly, pretending like they were part of the community just so they could spy on them in order to enslave them towards their own gospel. And that is not just like, oh, somebody made a mistake in their doctrine. He is clearly saying, like, no, these people are intentionally coming in amidst you, pretending like they're a part of you, and then looking to use you for their own goals, their own teachings, and all of that stuff. And I feel like this past 2 years, God has just really been opening my eyes to the fact that when he says there are evil and wicked people in the world, that he's not lying about it. And I don't know if it was just how I was raised or how I don't know, came to faith or what it was about it, or maybe it was just my own life experience that maybe I just didn't experience that many people who were bad people in that way of like, they have nefarious goals. Like it's not just accidents. It's not just mistakes. It's people who believe their own truth, trying to lead other people astray. And I just feel like today was just another reminder that when I am running my race, when I am trying my best to obey the Lord, to be a good man, to love the community around me, that there might be people who try to cut in on that race and prevent me from obeying the truth. And I don't have anyone really specific in mind that I can think of right now at this moment, but I think it was just a good reminder that, again, you just have to take every thought captive. You can't let the yeast get into the dough. And the way that you do that is how we ended the chapter, where before I had always read it of like, keep in step with the Spirit, like, oh, obedient, like walk with him. But today I connected it to that first verse of like, if we're running a race and we're keeping in step with the Spirit, I was thinking of like in track or in cross country, like when you have teams of people who are running in those things, or even like NASCAR or any type of race, you have a pace setter, the person that sets the pace for the rest of the team so that they can hit their time goals, and so that people don't burn out or fall behind. And I was just thinking about that as like, okay, this isn't just a casual walk with the Spirit. Sometimes it is. And I would say most of the time, like we are casually walking with the Spirit. But I think there's also this competitive nature to faith that is, no, I'm going to keep up. I'm not going to let anybody cut in on me. I'm going to run my race. I'm not going to be distracted. I'm going to keep my eyes on the back of the Holy Spirit, and I'm not going to lag behind or try to run in front of him. Like I'm going to keep in step with him. And it was just a good reminder for me today to stay vigilant, to obey the truth, to know that there are people in the world who would like to harm what I believe, or even myself or the people around me. And it's important, I think, then to obviously have the power of the Spirit to be able to stand up against that, to protect myself, to protect those around me. And I mean, the rest of the book is about how you deal with those people. And he says, especially if they're within the community, you restore them gently by the Spirit. But then for for those who got caught up in the heresy of circumcision, like restore them gently. But to the people who are preaching this, he goes, I wish they would emasculate themselves. Like he's saying, like, don't just cut off the tip, cut off the whole thing. Paul, you're crazy, man. But there is a sort of violence to how we have to treat the ideas of those who would like to see us fail or fall or walk away from God. That it isn't just you talked about this yesterday. It isn't just oh, we'll hear them out. It's you're wrong and you need to stop talking to me and to those I love or to this community. And I think we do need leaders who are able to do that. And like it's like he says again in this chapter, he's like, do you hate me because I speak the truth to you? Have I become your enemy because I've spoken the truth to you? And I think that's just like what we have to believe for ourselves as Christians, is if we have the truth, then it's not about being mean or being unloving. It's about making sure that people stay on the right path and that people aren't snatched away by the enemy, by the devil, by people who have nefarious plots. So it's kind of what stood out to me today. And yeah, it's just a good reminder.
That's good. When you made the illustration of, I guess Paul made the illustration of running a race, and you said it's like it's not a walk all the time. Sometimes it's a run or being competitive. And I immediately thought, because this morning very early, me and Seb watched some Paw Patrol, and in all like the kids shows with any race or game or something, it follows the same pattern that the bad guys eventually cheat, and the good guys don't win by just keeping the same pace, right? Like they're naturally better. The Paw Patrol pups were killing it in soccer. And Mayor Humdinger cheated. Any parents out there of kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I was just thinking about that, where that's the race that we're racing. That's the race we're running, is we could be walking, we could be going our pace with the Spirit, pure intentions, going. Can you expect the enemy to play fair? Absolutely not. And that's what Paul's saying here. Is like, they're not just attending because they're curious, be like, oh, what is this Christian stuff going on? Maybe I'll see whatever. They're going, I know what these guys are doing. I know what they're preaching, and I'm going to go in there and try and cause division and do all this stuff. And because, right, they're not going in with pure intentions. So the point is, after that moment of the enemy cheating, playing unfairly, then not only do you not have to keep your pace and overcome that obstacle they've put in, but now you have to be faster, stronger, and more aggressive and more competitive, still in the Spirit. But then that's how you win, is you don't play dirty back. And I think that's like, and that's how like all, the kids shows go, and any sports movie where the other team cheats and then they don't respond by cheating, the good guys respond by just being like literally more skilled, more devoted, more passionate. And I think that's exactly what we have to do, is when you come up to that opposition, you don't back off and be like, oh, the Lord will do what the Lord will do. I think a lot of times it's like, keep going. Like he says, finish the race. And not only are you going to get literally tripped up by these guys cheating, but now you need to lock in and really sprint for it, and the Spirit will give you the power and like the direction and just outpace them without doing the same thing they're doing and tripping them back, because then it's like, well, now we're just as bad as them. And that's what makes any like sports movie so good, right? Is they're like, I mean, remember the Titans when they're playing dirty and the ref's calling, and then he's like, goes to the team and he doesn't say fight back, hit their guy really hard. He's just like, we're going to play the best football we've ever played, and it doesn't matter. If they cheat, we will still beat them because we're that much better than them, that them cheating isn't even enough to overtake us. And I was just like, I think that's the Ad Victoriam
Can
spirit.
I
There we
add
go.
one more
Go
movie
for it.
Karate Kid,
Yeah,
man? Like sweep the
exactly.
leg, Johnny, and he sweeps the leg, but then Danny comes back and he does the sweet mantis kick. But yeah, I completely agree with that. That we don't repay evil with evil, right? We expect that good will overcome evil,
But
and
we
so we
also
lean
don't
into
surrender
that.
the match
Right.
either, you know? So, no, that's good. I like that. I read Second Chronicles 7 through up to 13. I was just thinking back with Solomon just from a different section. And God talks to Solomon. He asks for wisdom. Solomon builds the temple, all the celebration. And then after that, God kind of gives his charge to Solomon. And he says, if you live in my presence as David did, pure in heart and in action, living the life I've set before you, attentively obedient to my guidance and judgments. And then he says, I'll ensure you're in rule and your sons will rule. And then he leaves the alternative is like, and if you don't, and if you serve other gods, I will literally wipe this place off the map. And I think it's God just like, I can and I won't hesitate to, and I'm not bluffing. Like, but I just like that he laid it out so simply. And I just think about a lot of the stuff I look for when I'm reading the Bible in scripture is just those moments of God directly speaking to someone, laying out something plainly in a way that can be applied to today. Because I think a lot of times in the Bible, when God speaks to people, it is for specific situations. And then that's where we have to try and pull out, like, oh, what's the principle here? What's God teaching here? But I love these moments where, yes, that's to Solomon, but I also feel like that is directly applied to anyone who wants to follow the Lord and what God expects from literally anyone. He just says, in my presence, pure in heart and in action, living the life I've set before you, attentively obedient to my guidance and judgments. And I'm just like, that's simple. It's straightforward. It's simple. And how many times in the Bible does God just simply ask for, just give me a simple and humble person who's obedient? Like, that's all I want is just someone who's humble. They don't have to be crazy. They don't have to be the greatest person ever. Just somebody humble who will listen and obey me. And that I can do. That everybody can do. And I think that's just what's so cool about it is you don't have to be a king or the son of a king and leading this huge thing. The directive towards King Solomon is the same directive towards you and me. And it's
good.
not like, oh, because you're a king, I have special things for you. You get treated differently. You don't have to serve me the way everybody else has to serve me. No, that's not what he's saying at all. He's saying the same thing he says to everybody. And then as I was reading more and writing more, I just thought like Solomon's downfall was women, not just women, but specifically like lust. Like there's no way he actually loved all of those 1,000 women in the same way that one man loves a wife. And it's lust. And it's no different than like the ancient version of just like porn. And, what I mean? It's just like he has all these women at his disposal at any given time. Just crazy. And the interesting thing I wrote down though was David's biggest sin was lust. And Solomon was the son, not the son, but the son of Bathsheba and David. And I was just thinking about that Solomon's downfall was the same thing that his parents, like, there was the product. He is the product of his parents' relationship, which was born through lust, and his downfall was lust. So I wrote down, is David to blame for Solomon's sin? Because you can look at that as like generational, like sin or curses or however you want to look at it. And then I put, no, I think Solomon has no excuse. And I think he knew exactly what his father did, exactly who his mom was. Yes, they tried to remedy that, but what was done, and he was the son of that. And I think I would love to believe that he would look at his parents and say, that won't be me. But he went the opposite way in a long way and said, maybe I'm invulnerable to this like problem, or I don't know why, but it was just, I just felt like Solomon had no excuse. He saw it firsthand. It was his parents, you know what I mean? And it's just so interesting. And then the last thing I put down, just thinking about where it says Solomon brought back like everything of the law of Moses and was doing it to the T and exactly as it was laid out. And I was just thinking about that and I was like, the law of Moses is so ridiculously detailed and specific, and there's so much to it. And then I think I just put down, I was like, I think the law of Moses just puts the phrase honor God in all you do into specifics. Because I thought there's no way you could live in this society following all of this stuff and forget about God, because every little thing that they did, good things, bad things, there were so many festivals that they did, and Passover and like Festival of the Booths, and all these offerings and travelings and temples and Levite, like just so much stuff. All of it points to God. And I was like, you could not live by the law and forget about God. And that's, I think, exactly why when they do forget about God, the entire law has to be thrown out or just modified in a way that it doesn't actually honor God. But I was just thinking about that, where I think we just draw the line between Jesus and the law of Moses so quickly and be like, oh yeah, the old tons of crazy rules. I don't really know what that was about. They're just trying to define a culture and design a culture. And none of that's relevant anymore. And I was like, I think the culture is literally everything you do it to the glory of God. And then God said, just so you don't miss anything, I'm about to go through everything you can possibly do in your lifetime, and I will write down how you do it to glorify God and how you should not do it to not glorify God. And that's why it's so ridiculously expansive with specifics and this and that. And like, it feels like everything is written down, big or small, relevant or not. And you're just like, it's so hard to read because there's just so much packed in there. But I was just thinking, honor God in all you do is a nice, big, general statement. And it's like, what if we were to define that? I think it would probably look like the law of Moses. It's like, oh, if someone wrongs you, do this and do that. Make sure your heart's pure and apologize for this. But if they wronged you in this way, then you need to approach it this way. And here's how you do, and I was like, oh, I think it really is when Jesus says like the golden rule, like love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and strength. And I think that's, yeah, so that was my takeaway. Just kind of helped me understand the law of Moses, just giving it's like, it is just the detailed specifics, all the fine print of a legal document of honor God in all you do, love the Lord with everything you have. Yeah, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I would just add one more thing too. The purpose of the law is honor God and love your neighbor. Like, that's what Jesus says. That's what Paul says. And the reason for the law, if you read Galatians, is because people suck, because God knows man and he knows that they're sinful. And so he had to create something that bound them up, as Paul says, like took them captive. Otherwise, they would just devolve into a lawless society. And I think that's the only thing I would add to that is like, yeah, if you love God, then you'll obey God, then you'll love your neighbor as yourself through the law. And if you don't, there's something in place to keep those people in check. And I agree with what you said. When that is abandoned, then we see Judges. The book of Judges is what we get when we abandon the law. And it's bloody and it's violent and it's perverted and it's gross. And I think obviously that's the beautiful thing about Jesus, is that he is the simplicity of the fulfillment of the law. It's like, believe in Jesus, obey Jesus, and then you won't devolve into sin. And it's like, oh, nice. Like, I can do that and I can live in freedom in that. And I don't have to worry about sin because I know that Jesus is taking care of it. And even when I do sin, I can ask for his forgiveness and come back to obeying. So, yeah, that's the only thing I thought with that, but that's all good stuff.
Sweet. Yeah, that was Second Chronicles 7 through. Oh, I said that. So 7 through 12. So
Cool.
if you're reading along,
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see ya.
see you later. Oh, Swing the Sword.
Yeah, listen to it.
Episode 2 is out. Click it right now.